Okay, so now the bowl has dried. It's about half dry, and this is called the leather hard stage. You can see I can pick it up, I can handle it. I'm not distorting the shape of the bowl, but it's still wet enough that I can do things like trim it, I can add handles if I wanted to, I can carve it. So it's still very workable at this stage. I'm going to be first trimming the foot ring on the bottom of the bowl. To do this, I use a tool called a Giffen grip, which automatically centers the bowl on the pot and has little grips so that the bowl will stay centered as I'm trimming it. Now again, I don't want to distort the shape when I take this pot off of the wheel when it's done trimming. Right now I can pick up the pot fairly easily because there's extra clay on the bottom, so I can hold on to that. But once the foot ring is trimmed, I won't want to pick it up like this. So I've just devised on my own a way to pick up the pot. These are just strips of kind of a soft cotton fabric that I lay across here. And I'll be able to use these to pick up the pot once it's done trimming. Okay, when I'm deciding to trim, the foot ring has a certain diameter, and I need to figure out, well, what diameter, how much clay do I need to trim off? So I look at the inside of the pot, and I can see where the flat part of the base is. And then I can look to the outside of the pot, and I can see I want my foot ring to be at the outer edge of that flat part of the base. So I can look at the outside and see, well, to make that happen, I need to trim off probably about a ½ inch of clay all the way around. Okay, now potters use a lot of different tools to trim their pots. It's basically what feels good in your hand and what you feel like you have good control of. To trim off a bulk quantity of clay, I use a tool like this that I can, once the blade gets worn out, I can put a new blade into there. So I'll start by making sure the top of the pot is level. And then I'm going to start trimming in about a ½ inch from the outer edge. And I always save my trimmings. Again, that's something that can be reconstituted and made into another pot. So I save the trimmings if I can. Okay, so I've gotten a good bulk of the clay off. And now I'll use a tool that has a smaller end to it. Actually, I use both of these ends, just because I feel like I have a lot more control when I'm working with this smaller tool. And I'll really refine the shape of the foot. You can see I'm making it about a ½ inch high because I know I have about a ½ inch. Okay, and now I'm going to cut away this excess clay here so that there's a nice smooth transition between the wall of the pot and where the foot is. If you don't do this process, many times you end up with a lot of extra clay that adds weight to the piece. I've made my share of 2-ton bowls, and I work really hard to make the bowl weigh as much as it looks like it should weigh when you pick it up. Okay, so that's a nice smooth transition, and then I'll take this steel rib and again just make it a nice smooth. There, that's good. Okay, now I'm going to cut the center out. Again, I have about a ½ inch thickness here that I know about, so I'm going to be cutting down about a ¼ inch and removing the excess clay that's in the center. I like to make my pots have an elegant look to them, and part of that is having a nice finished bottom to the pot. There are other potters that their pots are more rustic, they have a different style of working with the clay, and it's all good, but they don't have to go to this degree to finish the bottom of the pots, because leaving it flat goes with the style of the rest of the pot, but it would not go with the style of the way I do my pots. Okay, and now I'll smooth out the bottom. This is the point where you could do some little decoration, extra decoration on the bottom if you wanted to, and on some of the designs I do, I make little ridges or a little swirl in the bottom, but I won't do that for this pot. That's not in the design. And I don't know, let's see, as I'm cutting this foot ring, you can see there's a little bit ridge around the edge of the foot ring. It's just the width of the tool, and that will be important when I put the wax on the pot, and I'll explain that at that time. Okay. So the last step is just to sponge everything smooth. And, of course, sign the piece. I always try to make my signature legible, so if someone wanted another piece, they'd know who I am. Okay, so what I'll do is lift the pot up, and again this will keep the shape from distorting, and just put it back on the